Welcome, everybody, to the Ladies Talk Show. This is your host, Leah Richheimer. We are going through Marriage Secrets, okay? And we are on what chapter is this? Chapter 8, page 175. And I'm going to read a couple of pages, and then we're going to take questions from the studio audience. And we love questions. info@ladiestalkshow.com. Okay, here we go. Ready? You guys all with us? Yeah? Good. Okay, here we go. Communicating for results. I can't take it anymore, Margie said to the therapist in a heartfelt manner. He never takes any time to listen to me and doesn't seem to care what's going on with me. What would you say to him if he would listen? The therapist said, turning to glare at Margie's husband. I'd tell him that I'm more important than his never-ending poker game. I'd tell him that his hunting buddies were never there for him when he needed them, and that he was wasting his life on the golf course, time he can never get back. The therapist nodded his head steadily. He took a deep breath. Don't you see, Bill? Your wife needs to be listened to. She needs to be heard and understood. She needs regular times when she can feel that what she thinks matters. You really need to step up to the plate on this one, Bill. You need to make time for her so she can feel listened to, at least 3 times during the week. You think you can manage that? Bill looked down at the carpet. He furrowed his eyebrows with determination and replied, Okay, Doc, I guess I can drop her here Mondays and Wednesdays, but Friday I play golf. Ouch. Communication is one of the greatest challenges in our life. Bill didn't even realize that the doctor was telling him to communicate with his wife, not that his wife needed to meet with a therapist to communicate. Wouldn't it seem obvious that along with our dose of reading, writing, and arithmetic, we should have been schooled in the fundamental art of communication? This is chapter 8, communication for results. Okay, we don't want to just communicate and then go nowhere, right? It's called communication for results. Okay, so we're reading, writing, arithmetic. Shouldn't we learn communication like it's the most important thing? How can it be that we were all left to wing it on our own about one of the most valuable skills we need to survive? Not only in negotiating the world at large, but most significantly in our marriage. It seems like a mighty important skill to leave to a haphazard education, don't you think? It's so sad that all we want to do is share our innermost thoughts with our husband, to be heard, to be understood, to be listened to have our words make an impact, and to use the profound tool of communication to bring us closer together and to get us on the same page with our direction in life. Yet, it seems that much of the time we are misunderstood, our intentions are misjudged, our words come out sounding harsh even when we don't mean to, and our communication ends up pushing us farther apart. Moreover, even if we really need to discuss crucial issues, there is so much tension about them that we often end up avoiding difficult topics altogether. Consequently, we live in such an awful state of suspension, simply waiting for resolution on so many matters that we can't even feel settled in our own lives. How do we navigate this rough terrain in order to communicate effectively and lovingly? Why is this such a challenging problem? Okay. Communication obstacles. We're going to go over now what gets in our way of communicating well. Okay. It's been a pretty challenging century so far. Just when we have more ways to connect than ever before, communicating in an authentic way seems more challenging than ever. With multiple electronic devices vying for attention, a nonstop agenda of activities and stresses piling up wherever we turn, it seems we never get a breather from anything. And when we do have an unexpected moment of stillness, perhaps waiting at the doctor's office or on an airplane, we may even feel uncomfortable about it, like we need to find something outside of ourselves with which to interact. Rarely do we take the time to simply reflect on our life. We are forever in motion. The ultimate cost to this malady of perpetual distractions is in our relationships with our husband. It's often easier to answer urgent emails to strangers than to engage in person with the single most important person in our life. There is a history in our marriage, many battles won and lost, many wounds, and it often makes us feel far too vulnerable to even go there. Better to remain on superficial terms than to commit and risk being hurt. And yet, according to the Sefer Binyan Ede Ad, the precious involvement and connection is where our very life is and how we earn our eternity. Meaning, this isn't just Leah Richheimer's great idea. This has sources from Chazal, from our sages. There are so many obstacles in our modern life that keep us from communicating well with our husbands, from being perennially rushed and harried, to feeling hurt or angry, to having so many issues that we feel overwhelmed and never seem to have the time to resolve any of them. We bear grudges and feel resentful, and the whole communication thing seems so complicated. When there's a major conflict going on, we are woefully ill-prepared to discuss the matter in a productive manner. More often than not, we say hurtful things that we don't really mean, or bring up points that simply add fuel to the blazing fire. The stalemate that ensues may feel like familiar territory, but we certainly wouldn't characterize it as constructive or peaceful. Resentments hang in the air like a gray cloud. I'm going to do one more section to set us up for the solution to this, but I'm going to talk about communication training, page 178. So many people can't be bothered to master their own mouth because they feel that then they aren't really expressing the real me. So they let it all hang out, leaving stab wounds in those around them. Obviously, if this brash way of relating to others produced great results, that would be one thing, but we all know it's an abysmal failure. Not only does bold, straight talk alienate everyone, but it also is the least effective way to get someone on the same side working as a team. Maybe a person who is bullied might comply for a moment, but after the bully is left, the person will usually do the opposite of what is requested out of spite for having been treated so poorly. Putting someone on the defensive backfires every time. I guess it's to be expected, but when I teach about bad communication habits, rather than self-examination, my students typically begin to point their fingers at everyone else. It's so much easier to spot this lack of caring in others, but unfortunately, very hard to recognize or admit in ourselves. Keep this in mind as we go along here. Resist the temptation to fix everyone around you and just work on yourself. So, how do we go about improving on a skill that we may have a scant training in to begin with? Where do we even start? It's as if we are dropped onto the front lines of a raging battle, and our only weapons are a toothpick and a plastic spoon. How are we meant to navigate this hostile territory with so little guidance on how to proceed? Fortunately, God has us covered on this one. We're about to go through what Chazal have to say about how we are meant to navigate this arduous terrain. We will learn practical tools that have a track record of producing results. Most importantly, we will come to deeply appreciate that the more we work on our communication skills, the more harmonious and glorious our marriage becomes. There is a treasure trove of closeness, intimacy, laughter, and delight just waiting for us. So let's get started. Okay, I'm ready for you guys. I love the smiles. Here we go. Okay, what are our first questions? Gila, you got something for me?
Yeah, so Gitty asks, when I try to communicate with my husband about controversial topics, he comes back to me and tells me what he thinks as a fact, even if it's something that doesn't affect him directly. For example, the kid's schedule. It makes me very frustrated, and it's very hard for me to carry on the conversation. I want to give him control, but I also need to be validated as a person. What should I do?
Very, very good question. We actually are going to be getting into the solutions next class, but I'm just going to give you standing on one foot, some pre answer to how to handle this. I would guess that, we covered already about listening to our husband and how crucial that is and how important a man needs to be heard. He needs to be, that's how he connects, and even, I don't listen to my husband because I say, how are you? Fine. What's new? Good. Nothing. How was work? Good. Like, hello, he doesn't communicate. So what do you want from me? So what I want you to do is to write down 20 questions you can ask him. So when he comes home, he says, no, yes, fine, whatever, you say, can you tell me a little bit about the project you're currently working on? That's not a yes, no answer. He can't say, you know what I mean? He's got to say, well, he may not be in the mood and you might have get him at the right time or whatever, but the more he shares with you and the more he connects with you, the more he talks to you, the more he'll connect with you. So my guess is in this particular situation, if he, every time she brings up a controversial thing, he starts, barking about political things and his opinions and it's about the schedule or whatever, he starts pontificating, it could be the end result of not being listened to enough in every other way. So again, someone said to me, well, I tried this and I tried that, whatever, but it's got to be a sustained effort. And it's got to, the husband is mad for 20 years because the wife never gave him respect. So now she started giving him respect and she didn't see instant results. Would you give instant results if in 20 years someone didn't respect you? Probably not. Probably it would take some time for you to, feel like the things weren't going to backfire on you, or he wasn't, to be vulnerable enough to be able to share. So my guess is in this situation, listening more to him would make the biggest difference in his doing this and him being able to listen to you and make you feel validated. So that's, probably 70% of the battle. The other 30% is how you're saying things to him. And again, sometimes I sound like I'm blaming the victim, like, he's the one who's doing the bad acts. How come you're the one who has to do start turning yourself into a pretzel to make him happy? So here's the thing. I get it. That's like annoying, but waiting for him to, turn around, like, how's that working for you? Waiting for him to do it right, So if you step up to the mat and you put your best efforts into saying things correctly and, validating him more and listening to him more and so forth, it might take a while, but eventually you'll see that reciprocity, and he'll learn it from you both, because we learn from, our spouses as we grow. A man probably starts out more logical and a woman probably starts out more emotional. And after they're together 10, 20, 30, 40 years, the woman gets a little bit more logical and the man gets a little bit more emotional, or emotionally sensitive or whatever. And I'm not saying, look, these are politically incorrect things, what I'm saying, okay? But I'm just saying as a general rule, okay? So there's huge exceptions to every case. There's women who are completely logical and men who are completely emotional. So, but as a general rule, we grow with each other and learn with each other. So in this case, your job now is, number one, to make up 20 questions and try and solicit more sharing from your husband. That'll alleviate a lot of this. And then you're also how you're saying it to him. So let's say you come and it's a kid's schedule and say, here's how it could be that this is what I think. And he goes, no, because whatever the battle is about, if you presented it in a different way, like, I've been giving this some thought, and please don't shoot this down right away, because I know, you might hear this and say, no way, but maybe, I just want to share my thoughts with you. I'm totally open to what you have to say about it. I hope you'll be open to my thoughts about it. This is where I thought. So I thought if the Shmuley goes to school at this, you drop him off here and I'd pick him up there, and whatever the schedule is, and say, that's what I was thinking. What do you think? Like that. So how you present it is also going to make a world of difference. Very, very good question, a deep question. And again, don't expect instantaneous results. This is the kind of thing where you have to, you have to massage it. You have to give them more respect. You have to give them more listening, and slowly but surely things will start to look the way you want them to do. When you're building a sandcastle on the sand, right? Well, maybe this is more permanent than that, but whatever, it's like, you don't just it isn't all done first. You built the turrets. Is that what they're called? Those whatever, you're building the tall things, then you're building the steeples, and it just takes time or whatever, and then at the end you have a beautiful castle. Okay, what else you got for me, Gila?
That was beautiful. So many layers to that answer. Okay, Aliza asks, is it possible to have a good marriage without communicating that often? We are both so busy, but whenever we do interact, it is always pleasant. Neither one of us is the type to have deep discussions of talk about our feelings as much.
Yeah, I think it's possible. As they say, don't fix what ain't broke or whatever, right? So I get it. It's good. I'm not sure, you have to sort of do some self-examination, some introspection. Is the reason you're not talking because you don't want to, or you don't need to, or you feel totally connected without talking? That's fine, then that's okay. That's just the way it is. And if he's the same way, that's one thing. Many times, however, people don't talk and don't share themselves and don't connect because of childhood trauma or drama, maybe they told their mom what their inner feeling is, just, I can't believe you thought that way, that's disgusting, or whatever, I mean, it's sad, but these things happen, or anytime she's the youngest kid, and every time she opened her mouth, everyone shot her down. All the older kids, like, nobody was validating her or him or whatever, and so a lot of times inability to communicate or connect deeply has to do with longstanding I was going to say trauma, but it's kind of a post-traumatic stress disorder, whatever it is, kind of learned habits that shut a person down. So if that's the case, if it's that you're just shut down because you have bad memories from the past, or bad role models, or bad rejection, feeling rejected and feeling vulnerable all the time, then that's something to be worked on. And it could be something you work on yourself, or that you read a book about, or you read articles about, or you talk to a confidant about. If it's very deep and very troublesome and really means you can't connect, then that needs a therapist, a trained counselor who can work with you on that topic, to get on the other side of it. So as a general rule, I think that people get so busy with their lives that they just don't make time for it. They don't realize how crucial that communication is. With Leah, we went out and we went out to dinner, whatever, and he spent 2 hours talking about his stupid hobby. What different? It was nothing I needed to know. We would have been totally fine without me knowing that he always wants to do woodwork, and that's what he wants to do when he retires, and what kind of machinery he would buy. Like, so boring, didn't help our marriage at all, and had nothing to do with our daily life. What value was it? And here's what I'm here to tell you. Him sharing those things with you creates a bond like you can't believe. Like, you may not see it. You're a woman and, okay, whatever. I'm telling you, like, I just because I've had so much experience with this, but, a woman goes and, she listens to her husband, and then, like, he brings her flowers. He hasn't done it in like 10 years. He calls her, texts her during the day saying, how you doing? How you feeling? Oh, how's your foot doing? How's your elbow? Whatever it is, it creates a bond, and you got to trust me on this one. Well, no, forget it. You don't have to trust me. You got to try this. You got to try this, and you will see that it creates a deep connection. So I hear that everything seems very pleasant and lovely in your marriage, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But my suspicion is there's always more connection available, which, by the way, means more joy and happiness, but BTW, by the way, okay? There's more connection available, and that means both seeing what your own personal blockages to that might be, and it also means taking the time, is scheduling it, like making like this hard and fast rule that we are blocking out this time to be together. And beautiful question, and I give you a bracha that you should have hatzlacha this and connect more than ever before. Yay. Okay.
Amen. Okay. So Javi asks, I have a relationship in my life that is a little difficult, and each time I feel hurt from it, I would like to share with my husband how I feel. But each time I tell him what happened and how sad I am, he tells me, I told you so, just cut her out of your life. I don't feel safe sharing my feelings anymore. I just want him to sympathize.
Okay, so what was her name? What was the girl's name?
Javi.
Javi. Here's my question for you. Have you ever told that to your husband? Like, show him the letter. Write down, cut and paste your question and show it to him, and share that with him. Will that make you even more vulnerable? Yes, it is. It's a risk you're taking because he could cut that down. But if you are sharing, they say, the Chazal say that if you speak from the heart, it goes into their heart. And if you're saying it from a very deep place of you're not trying to make him feel bad, you're not trying to put him down, you're not trying to hurt him, you're trying to share your honest feelings with him, I definitely would try it. If it backfires and he's hostile or he doesn't get it, you have to look at his background. Maybe his parents were harsh to him. Maybe it's a second marriage and his first wife always, cut him down and didn't validate him. I don't know what his history is, but you do. And if you don't know it, you should find out some of the things, a woman, she was married to a man for 20 years. She did not know that his mother slapped him all the time. in the face, look, that was a different time, a different era, and maybe that could be, but just like, how could I be married to, and, he kept it in, he kept to himself or whatever. I'm not blaming her, but is it possible that if she had been more of a receiver to his sharing, she would have found that a lot sooner? Probably, could be. So, it's not like you have to divulge to each other all of your vulnerabilities and all of the trauma that you had, or in its minutia and its detail. I don't think that there's some things that should not be shared with a husband. Some things should go with you to your grave. If they're blocking your ability to be close, then yeah, you need to get in a therapist and work it out or whatever. But there's some things that okay, they don't affect your daily life, and there were some things, and I don't know. This is a question for LOR, your local Orthodox Rav, or a Rebbitzin, or but for the most part, the ability to be vulnerable in a relationship is a formula for closeness. And, I'm just going to give you a simple example. If you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and you wake up and you start snapping and you're yelling at everybody, and yelling at your husband, and why did you do this? And how come you didn't you didn't fold the pillowcase, whatever, and you're just like grouchy. That's very different than waking up and saying, I'm so sorry. I woke up in the grouchiest mood. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm going to try and be nice, but don't expect a lot from me this morning. It's just cute and sweet. And that's a point of connection rather than pushing away. So being vulnerable and owning up to your own stuff and sharing with each other, that forms a deeper bond. And if he's not doing it well, you need to examine, if he doesn't react well or he gets defensive, you need to really dig in deep and think, brainstorm ways you can communicate it in a way that he can hear it. Very, very good, deep, good question. Okay.
Okay, great. Dahlia asks, I always find that when I try to communicate with my husband, I say things I don't really mean and regret it after. How do I stop myself before I say something I will regret? I have tried, but never succeeded. It's really hindering my relationship with my husband.
Right. Okay. So you're not going to be happy, Dahlia. I've got the very, very hard thing for you to hear, which is the number one way to control our mouths. The top way is by never letting ourselves off the hook from apologizing. Never. Meaning after you say a harsh or mean or nasty thing that you regret, you have to to make a promise to yourself, you have to go and apologize for it. And there's no quicker way to learn how to control your mouth by having to grovel and, that thing I said before, yesterday, where I said whatever, I'm sorry I snapped at you. I'm sorry I barked at you. I'm sorry I said that mean thing. That was not true. You aren't ugly as a dog. whatever, hello. I'm looking for reactions. I'm just like, hello. But anyway, so the thing is that if you are going to, it might take a month, or 2 more months or whatever. Depends on if you're a slow learner, fast learner, but if you are going to have to apologize, it's the best way to control your mouth. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, I would talk to your husband about this directly and say, I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm a lot of mastery, self-mastery in my life. I'm disciplined in exercising. I'm disciplined and I don't eat a whole cake, I eat one, but so I'm pretty good self-mastery. But in this one area, when my, when my buttons get pushed, or I don't even know what it is, I'm trying to analyze it, but at certain points, I lose it and things come out of my mouth that I don't mean. So I don't know how to grow in this. I just want you to know I'm working on it. And I'd appreciate if in the middle of when I say one of the loose cannon things, if you were to say, that's one of your loose cannon things, that will put me on the defensive and it'll make it worse for me. So don't bring it up in the time it's happening. Maybe I'll know that you know that I know now that I've told you about it. But I don't want you to correct me. I want to correct myself. I want to work on myself on this. And I am working on it. And I'm giving you a general apology for any of my slip ups that I'm going to make in the future, because I'm not perfect or whatever. But I just want you to know, sweetheart, I'm working on it. I'm really working on it. And that does two things. Number one, it puts him on notice. Your stings won't be as painful for him to hear. And the second thing it does, it puts yourself on notice that, hello, like this is a behavior I want to change. When we want to change a habit, it's very nice to mentally think about, what we want to do. But if you put placeholder, the way to ensure that it'll happen is putting placeholders in it. If you don't, it's just good luck. So that means if you're going on a diet, lock the fridge, don't have cheesecake in the fridge on the top shelf with chocolates drizzling over the side. Set yourself up for success. So the way to do it here is as I've just described, and the most important thing is that you yourself have goals in mind. Don't make yourself, oh, I'm never going to say anything bad in my life again. No, you're going to slip up. There's been a habit for 10 years, 20 years, whatever, that's causing lack of closeness in your relationship. So say, okay, once a week, I do it 10 times a week. I slip up and say these nasty things. I'm going to do it 9 times. And then the week after that, 8 times. And then a month after that, 7 times. Give yourself progress that's doable. Okay, fantastic. You guys are great questions today. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, beautiful. So Sarah asks, could it be that I communicate correctly and it's my husband's issue, or is there always something a wife can do?
Excellent question, Sarah. Very good. So look, if a woman gets better and better at communication, and in the upcoming shows, we're going to go into exactly what to do. We're going to talk about HOT and how to do it. And, that's a game changer in communication. So you're going to get really good, really fast. God willing. So you're going to do improvement daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, hopefully by when you're 99, you're still working on your communication ability and still trying to be better and better as you get closer and closer to people. So it is something that if you work on, your husband will kind of come with. However, if your husband, let's say he has a dysfunction, he snaps and he's angry and he's whatever, he has no anger control, and he never learned it, he was never taught it, and he never cared to work on it, and he's like, that's the way I am, and like that, whatever. You have bullheaded people in this world, and you might be married to one, and you might be one. Okay, so that makes it a more challenging, but it doesn't make it impossible. God gave us a set of character traits that we're born with, and our job over our lifetime is to improve them and get better and better and more self-mastery as we go along. That's the whole game. So if your husband's not working on it, but you're working on it 1,000 times, hopefully it'll rub off. And if it doesn't, you'll still have been doing the right thing. The other thing is, if your husband is really bullheaded, and I don't know if that's so accurate, but anyway, if he's just set in his way, he doesn't want to grow in this area. Perhaps a wife could sit down, you could sit down with them and you could say, I know that, you have a certain way of communicating. When I married you like that, and I love you and I love everything about you, whatever. And there's this one area when about the communicating where I find that you're, I wouldn't use the word bullheaded, that, I feel like there's no interest in growing in this. And I think it's something that's a little bit, that's important. And would you be open to any idea of trying to get a little better? Like, for instance, when I say something and you snap at me, would it be okay if I said something, oh, sweetheart, you just snapped? You want to say that again? Would that be okay with you? He might say, no, I don't want you bossing me around in the middle of an argument. Or he might say, oh, okay. Or you might say it 5 times. You might say, how about if I, when you say the mean thing, I just say, I say, artichoke, or, we make up a secret code or something like that. So it's not in front of the kids. Never do this kind of stuff in front of children. And then you might say, oh, okay, whatever. So work with it. Think of ways, your husband better than anybody. I'm going to say that again. You know your husband better than anybody. So you can figure out a way. And it could be, all right, I get it. You might have to read this cover to cover, Marriage Secrets. Okay. You might have to read it cover to cover to learn all of the Masora for how to do it. Again, I get no money for this. It all goes to charity. So the royalties, I want you to be happy. That's my goal. So you might need to learn a lot of the techniques of giving him the respect behind the scenes that will help this in a much better way. But the bottom line is, there's always something a wife can do. Always. Excellent question. Okay, this is Leah Richheimer. Oh, wait, homework. One time this week, when you are feeling absolutely out of control and you just want to let your husband have it, you want to lay into him, and you want to say a nasty communication is about to come out of your lips, use your duct tape. Okay. Ooh, it didn't open. Yeah, you use your duct tape. Okay. Just just don't say it. One time this week, don't say it. Okay, this is Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show. We'll see you next time. If you want more, we have so much more. If you want to learn our Masorah and have an awesome marriage, the first thing we have is a foundations course. It's a 13-week course. You get all your questions answered. It's live with me, and you can ask Q&A. It's awesome. Second thing we have is a coaching program. If you are awesome with people and you want to know the Masorah better than 99% of the people on the planet Earth, like for reals, okay? It's a 4-month program. It's very intense. We have major scholarships, and we have somebody who's granted in a lot to pay for a big bulk of it. It's still a little expensive, but for what you get, and then you can start charging money to know it. That's the coaching program. Don't miss it. Go to www.ladiestalkshow.com. Look up the foundations course, look up the coaching. We do retreats, we do all kinds of stuff. You'll find it there. www.ladiestalkshow.com. Thanks for being with us. Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show.